Well, what about the engineering application of Gecko tape? We know that Gecko tape is now both controllable and self-cleaning. These are very excellent properties. But what about traditional adhesives? And why is Gecko adhesive better than traditional? Well, traditional tape, such as duct tape and sticky notes, when they are used over and over again, they pick up a lot of particles like dirt and whatever else is lying around, and they lose a lot of their adhesive force. A lot. And it's adhesive force that cannot be recovered. Unlike the Gecko tape, where you don't lose adhesion after using it over and over, and it actually might increase its force if it was very dirty to begin with. It would actually clean itself. But what about stronger glues? Well, stronger glues have a simple problem, is that they are very difficult to remove, like epoxy. And even though they are a lot stronger than Gecko tape, it's not as dynamic. Also, regular adhesives such as glue and duct tape and things, they do not work in vacuums because of their chemical properties. Unlike Gecko tape, which is a dry adhesive, can operate in space as well as underwater, although not as well underwater. So, what is being done now? Well, in medical applications, there's actually a band-aid that is being developed by researchers, and this could actually replace surgical elements like staples and after surgery tools, and this would greatly help out patients from developing complications from their surgeries. The kind of Gecko tape that they are developing now is biocompatible, which just means that it can work with human tissue. And on the left here's a look at the nano patterns that they are developing for biocompatibility. Now, what they're doing here is considering this Gecko tape needs to work well with wet surfaces like the human body, and Gecko tape on its own doesn't stick that well. They needed to modify it, and they're using DXTA modified Gecko patterns, which is just a chemical compound, and they spread that along the surface of the adhesion to help it to stick better to tissue. And here is just a look at the adhesion, their nano pattern sticking to tissue, and how it will conform. And also that they determined that after a long period of time that the Gecko tape is actually biodegradable, and they did this by using methods of soaking it in acid and other chemicals and seeing the height and diameter change of the cone-shaped nano patterns, and what they saw was that it decreases over time, and these are just different patterns, 3 different patterns over a period of time. Mechanical application has also made some breakthroughs in that they're climbing robots, and in fact this is a climbing robot called StickyBot that mimics the locomotion of the Gecko, and he actually uses synthetic Gecko tape as well. And And so this is the first step in creating robots that can climb over any surfaces and up mountains or wherever you really need them to go. There's also a lot being done with carbon nanotubes, and why carbon nanotubes are so significant is because they are actually stronger than the real gecko hairs. So here, A and B, you have a look at the real gecko hairs, and C and D, you have carbon nanotubes, and this is just a blown up picture of C. And in fact, C, D, and F, the width of these carbon nanotubes are 100 micrometers in width. And in fact, in E, G, and H is actually increasing. They are making them bigger. Here's a look at some of the strength of the carbon nanotubes as they compare to the force of a real gecko. And over here, the width I was showing you earlier, as it compares to each other, and how a real gecko compares. And as you can see, that the carbon nanotubes are a lot greater than the gecko. In fact, they are almost 4 times as much for the same area. Here's a look at carbon nanotube structure. Each hairs are about 3 micrometers in length, and they all form arrays. And unlike the gecko hairs, these aren't real angled or anything, but that hasn't been proven to be a problem. They stick just as well. They stick better than the gecko, and they're so small. The goal of the carbon nanotubes is to increase the van der Waals force. Some practical applications of this would be fridge magnets, wall hangings, sticky notes, electronic components. And the good thing about you can reuse and reuse and reuse. So, who wins out? Biology or engineering? Well, engineering does. Engineering is everything but better. Not only has engineering surpassed the gecko with making the strength of the adhesion in the tape stronger, but has successfully replicated all the desired properties, including controllable adhesion and self-cleaning. Let me talk about some future technologies. I was talking about robots earlier. Well, the potential for robots to go anywhere and climb any kind of mountain, go underwater, in space, wherever. There's a huge potential for this to exceed in technology there. As I was talking about computer components, applications, there's a lot going into that, and I think that will become vital in the future. And as I was saying also, is that adhesives in space and underwater, they can be used for space shuttles, repairing satellites, or going underwater. And for those of us who like Spider-Man, there's always the Gecko suits, so we can strap one of those on and go climb a building or up a tree or other fun things like that. So it's just kind of a look into technologies that this could potentially go down into the future. So if you have any questions, I would love to hear them. Just email them to me. I'm sure they would help with my report.